Hey there, everyone, and welcome to In Contrast. My name is Alan.
And I'm Nisha.
And on this podcast, we talk about movies and the books that they're based on.
The catch is you watch the movie and I read the book with a few exceptions.
That is right. And today we're going to be talking about a pretty recent one, The Wild Robot.
Yes, by Peter Brown. And this is actually the first book in a trilogy. Mm-hmm. And I do believe the movie is setting up to have sequels as well.
I haven't heard anything officially announced, which I could be wrong about, but it does feel like it could go that direction.
Okay, maybe.
But it does kind of just end in a way that's satisfactory on its own, too, which is how those setups should go.
Yeah, definitely, because you never know if you'll get the funding for the next one. Right. The book was released in April of 2016, and it skyrocketed immediately. It was the bestseller on many things, including the New York Times. In the story, we follow Roz, the robot, as she ends up on an island and must learn to adapt, fit in, and raise a gosling.
Mm-hmm.
The audiobook is also considered to be extremely good. And I really wanted to listen to the audiobook for this one, but I actually read the book because it has illustrations.
Right.
But I did end up buying the book. If that hold on that audiobook ever comes up, though, I'll definitely listen.
Were you waiting on a hold this whole time? Is that what the problem was?
Yeah, it's been weeks.
Wow.
And I've been waiting on a hold.
Okay, well, we might have to track that down for sure. But yeah, if it was... Do you know who the narrator is on it?
No, I don't have it in my notes.
Okay.
No, but apparently, I think it's a woman and she does like voices and they've added like music and sound effects because it is a middle grade novel. So it's for a younger audience. So it makes sense that they would add these kinds of things to make it a little more captivating and immersive. But I think that the audiobook has won some, at least been highly recognized, if not won awards.
Okay, that's awesome. That's really important to the story, I think, to have an element of that. And in the book, I mean, the illustrations are super cool.
Yes.
So obviously we're going to be talking about the movie version of that, which came out pretty recently, just last year in 2024.
Sorry, I forgot what year it was.
It is 2025. Welcome.
Yes.
I know time is meaningless at this point in our existence, but it's fine. So yeah, they actually, Dreamworks had bought the rights to the movie the year it was published, almost immediately after. So they clearly knew there was something special to it that could be used for their style of animation. They were definitely correct. So they got Chris Sanders to direct, who is pretty experienced at this point at this kind of movie. He did Lilo and Stitch, which the original one, of course, which he did say, kind of informed some of the pieces to this film. You can definitely see some of that DNA in it. And then, he did a couple other pretty popular ones, probably the most noteworthy, the animated version of How to Train Your Dragon. So pretty funny that he did all of these, and both of those within the past, 2 months have had live action adaptations of them.
Yeah, you think we'll get a live action adaptation of a movie with no humans in it?
I certainly hope not, but I mean... That's essentially what How to Train Your Dragon is anyway.
Well, that one has humans.
It does, but it's mostly animated still.
Yeah, still a lot of CGI.
I don't really understand the trend of CGI fests calling them live action. It's like, yeah, that's why it was animated to begin with.
Yeah, some movies should stay animated. Peter Brown, the author, he'd been around the block, so I'm not surprised that this book was picked up so fast. Like I said, it was the New York Times bestseller. 6 of his books have been New York Times bestsellers.
What are some of his other books? I'm not super familiar with him.
I didn't write down a single one. Why would you ask that, Alan?
Because I thought you did your homework.
I did do my homework. But he's also been an IndieBound, USA Today, and Wall Street Journal bestseller. He has won 15 awards for both writing and illustrating. Sometimes both. He illustrated his own books usually, but he's also illustrated other books. And he's been nominated a couple more times than 15. He tends to win if he's nominated. His first book was published in 2005. So he definitely knows what he's doing. So I can't say I'm surprised that someone went, all right, we can pick him up. He has a proven track record,
right? And
we should scoop up something that he's done.
Yeah, so that's makes sense why they would have bought it straight away, even if it took them 8 years to actually get it released.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, movies like this with pretty detailed animation take some amount of time for production, but Yeah, and the movie was also very well received. It has pretty good ratings across the board. Even people who aren't like as high on it as others still think it's a good movie. You know, it I would say exceeds the expectations of something in the package that it comes in. You know, it manages to be kid friendly, but also opens for a wider audience.
That's exactly how I felt about the book. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like it is very accessible to children, but it talks about hard topics and it doesn't feel like it's like dumbed down or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really nice to hear.
And I read a lot of stuff, you know, from the director Chris Sanders in terms of his process of like how he thought about, you know, the book and how to translate it. And we're going to get into there's, I think, quite a lot of difference between the two properties, but it seems like they managed to accomplish the same goal, just in slightly different ways. And so I definitely had a good time reading some of his thought process behind how to translate it and kind of what it meant to him,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in terms of making it into an accessible movie.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear that because we don't get a lot of that. Actually, that's not a conversation we hear a lot. So that'll be really fun to hear about.
For sure. And it was one that he was like aware of the book before he, you know, it was I think 5 years in, like 2021, before he even got attached to the movie. But he already knew about the book. He hadn't read it yet, but he knew about it. It was a favorite of his daughter's. So I think it meant a lot to him to be able to get into it. And then he ended up really loving it.
Yeah, it sounds like this was a big passion project fueled by people who love what they do and loved the story. And from my understanding, that really shows. Even though they changed a lot, it was not done willy-nilly. It was done with care and thought.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we're going to, you know, I'm definitely going to gush a lot about some aspects of this movie because I do really, really respect what it's doing, especially, again, given the format that it's in. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. But another kind of interesting note about it is that this is, on a sadder note, unfortunately, this is the last final film to be animated entirely in-house for DreamWorks Animation.
Wow.
They announced that after this, they will move forward by using third-party animator studios, which, you know, they could still be doing very, very good movies, but, you know, outside of Pixar, I think DreamWorks is probably the next biggest kind of, you know, really notable animations, besides, like, your Studio Ghibli's and stuff like that, you know. It's kind of that next big mainstream animation studio that's created a lot of stuff, and you don't always think about it, but even I thought it was noteworthy that they announced that for this movie, because at the start of this movie is a little, you know, they always do the little DreamWorks logo thing at the beginning, but this one in particular was showing a bunch of their work from over the years, like, you know, Shrek and all these others that they had gotten famous for. So it was kind of a reminder about how much they have had an impact on animation throughout the years.
Yeah. DreamWorks has been a massive part of animation and revolutionizing that. So it is sad to hear, but ideally what this actually means is that they're able to, you know, focus on quality in different areas and have the outsourcing not be cutting jobs, but be allowing them to make more better content faster. But that's often not what it means. That might be a little lofty, but I'm hoping that's kind of part of this.
I hope that's the case too, but it's hard to like look at things that positively these days, you know, where things are all about taking shortcuts, but you never know.
Yeah.
And even if it is like a negative thing and the quality goes down, this is a really great send off, so we'll at least focus on that positivity.
Yeah, definitely. And it's nice that they had the opportunity to like celebrate their history with such a great movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, there's lots of wonderful things to be said about it. It again was very well received, so it was like in talk for best animated feature at the Oscars last year. It ended up losing to Flow, which I do think is a slightly superior movie. We won't get into that conversation here. There's some division in this house about that film, but yeah, I don't think it was ever a favorite to win, but it was in the, you know, nominations for it, and I think it's well deserved.
Yeah, nomination's pretty big deal. But we know Peter Brown doesn't lose. So he must be pretty disappointed that the movie made out of his book didn't get an Oscar.
He's probably going to Latvia right now to track down the Flow people.
He's trying to find the Flow people. He's like, what's going on here? Flow was it's a beautiful movie, but kind of, it broke me. Well, that's all I'll say on that.
Yeah.
So you want to get into the themes?
Yeah, I think so. There's quite a lot going on. It's fairly simple, on the surface level, but yeah, there's quite a lot this story is doing.
Yeah, I feel like one of the biggest things is just this story of like otherness and trying to fit in and find your community and found family, because we are following a robot who ends up in the book it's on an island, in the movie it's a beach, but ends up in this place where she just doesn't fit in at all. And she has to figure out how to fit in. But then also Bright Bill, the Gosling, who we'll talk about more, he also faces his own challenges because his family looks different from everyone else's. Right. And, it's the story about both of them kind of accepting where they come from and their differences, and their community accepting that differences aren't bad.
Yeah, it very much starts out with the kind of stranger in a strange land, archetype. At least it starts that way, but it does quickly develop into something more than just that. But that is very much the start, about being an outsider and, trying to learn how to be in a new place and with new people. And then, like you said, found family is a huge piece of this, and I'm always a sucker for that. It gets me right in the feels almost every time if it's well done.
Yeah, I love found family, especially because it really embraces how families look different, and how it's okay for your family to be found family and all of that. So I really love that trope as well. I think it's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
And I think this one does it really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think that's talking about these themes, that's one of the big reasons why I think this works at multiple age ranges, is that it is as simple as, it's okay to make friends or be kind to someone that's different than you. A very, straightforward childhood, lesson to be learned. But at the same time, it can definitely, not that I'm going to go into some, huge analysis about like xenophobia and stuff during this, but, there is that element of it to be found for adults as well. Obviously, it's going to be, a fairly easy look at that kind of theme, but it is found there for sure.
Yeah, with the idea of everyone being kind of afraid of Roz at first, but learning that as a community, their differences make them stronger. And we see that in the book, and I'm sure we see that in the film as well, where they can band together to do amazing things because they can all do different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we can sit here and call that a very simple childhood lesson, but I think a lot of adults should probably learn that lesson too.
Yeah.
They seem to have forgotten.
Yeah, some may have forgotten that.
But yeah, it is like very much a strength through community, and that's how you survive. Like that's how you adapt and thrive is through solidarity and helping each other.
Yeah, and also kind of a theme is embracing yourself and what makes you unique. So in embracing like other people, but also there's saying that like I'm different and that's okay because I get my own strengths and I can do my own amazing things. Even from, there's actually a really good line in the book in which Roz thanks everyone for defecating because she cannot defecate herself, and that's how they fertilize the garden.
Oh.
So you think like, this is this robot, what can it do? She's like chopping down trees and doing all this stuff, but then she also knows her limitations and then appreciates what others bring to the table, and how, embracing yourself and embracing others, and it just makes everything better.
Yeah, very much a celebration of differences, and how they can be used to everyone's advantage.
Yeah.
And then, something that I noted was that Peter Brown himself, he was partially involved in the production of the film. I don't think like super heavily, but he, came and talked to everyone and was, consulted and stuff like that. So he did sort of tell the production team that, kind of his main thought process of this story and how it works and how they should approach it is kindness as a survival skill, which is, kind of a simple way to put everything that we just said, I think.
Yeah, I love that. That's so like use your kindness. That's lead with kindness. I like that a lot.
Yeah, especially in a world where we hear so much talk about, survival of the fittest and, people are, I got mine, so you can worry about yourself, like that kind of mentality, it's not actually helpful to anyone. It brings us all down.
Yeah, it's stronger together, right? Embracing your community and being kind. And yeah, I really, really love the message of this book, and how like it, yeah, I really love the book. I actually bought a copy. I'll probably give it to my nephew. He's a little young, but yeah,
he'll grow into it for sure.
Yeah, and I think he'll like it. He likes robots, so
and he can at least enjoy the nice illustrations for now.
Yes, that's very true. And the illustrations are awesome. I guess do you want to talk a little bit about the art style?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the illustrations in the book are quite different from the movie, I would say. And the copy of the book I read the ebook, they had actually stills from the movie in it. So I got to like really look at
that's cool.
the differences. And the book is, so as I said, Peter Brown is an illustrator himself. And he uses this I almost want to describe it as like a diorama with like paper cutouts, because there's so much depth to it, but it's these very simple shapes, and the illustrations were in black and white in the copy I read. I'm not sure if you can get them in color anywhere, but it's these simple shapes. The robot is like the most simple, like a box for a body, a little kind of dome for a head. Its arms are just these little like tube looking things. It's super simple.
It's a very classic robot style.
Yes, exactly. And it fits very well. He juxtaposes it very well with like the natural swooping shapes and, all of these things. But it is such a simple style.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so beautiful and clean. And yet it offers like a lot of like depth, and it's beautiful.
It's that really great, this is far from the first thing to ever do some style like this, where it blends that technology with the natural world really well. Like, this is silly, but it always makes me think of that episode of Futurama where Bender gets stuck on the island of misfit robots or whatever, and there's like the one that's like powered by a water wheel and stuff like that. It's just like that combination is always fun for me.
Yeah, no, I actually just saw that specific part where she's like, I'm dying, and she runs into the water, and then she just continues her conversation.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, so that was part of what inspired Peter Brown. In fact, he was just like, what if you put a robot in the middle of nature?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's such a funny idea.
It is, yeah.
And he wanted to explore that, and it became a whole book, which is great. It actually became a whole series.
Yeah, a whole trilogy.
Yeah, and so that's really fun. And his illustrations, even though they're in black and white, really embrace that, and you see that juxtaposition, and it's kind of goofy and it's fun, and it's done super well.
Yeah, I like the art style, and especially like you said, that kind of like diorama look of it is super cool. And yeah, so there is a pretty significant difference between the animation style of it would definitely be a harder sell to completely animate something in that style, even though I think it would be cool as heck. It's just not quite as, eye-catching, I guess, to a general audience. So there's much more color in the movie, of course. It's very bright, very colorful. It's really, really beautiful, and it feels like it's a celebration of the natural world, which obviously I think would be a huge strength for it. And then, they just took a pretty interesting approach, I think, and in my opinion, succeeded quite well with their goals for the animation. So they did have the intention of incorporating some aspect of his illustration style into the film. And basically how they decided to do that is that they went with a traditional, CGI animation, but then they kind of overlaid like a more hand-painted look, as they put it, onto like the surface of not just the environment but the characters themselves, especially Roz.
Okay.
And so they kind of looked at it as like a painterly style is how they put it, and tried to include that into as much of the visual aspects of the film as possible.
Yeah, that's cool. I would say also like a big difference, and again, I'm going to emphasize that in the ways that the movie and the book are different, feels very thoughtful from my understanding, is Roz is much more complex. She is made of a few more moving parts, a few more shapes. She has lights on her in the movie. She's really just a gray series of shapes in the book.
Yeah, like her actual design as a model is quite simple, but then she has like all these features and lights and things that feel very modern.
Yeah.
And it uses all those elements very well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And so it is cool really to see how they change things and how it's like, the book feels very, like I said, there feels like there's depth in the illustrations, but it's very two-dimensional.
Yeah.
But the book, everything is like very alive and three-dimensional and colorful.
What Chris Sanders said his goal was to create a Monet painting in a Miyazaki forest.
Do you feel like he achieved that?
I do, actually.
Yeah.
I really do. Yeah, it has elements of this kind of like, watercolor look at times, even though it's not the full animation style. It has little touches of it here and there. And I do feel like this tonally and just in the way that the film progresses, it does have a lot of elements of Miyazaki films. Obviously the animation style is quite different, but it has some of that feel to it.
Yeah. So here's something I just thought of. In the book, like I said, it's black and white. We don't get a lot of color or change in that sense that adds to the atmosphere. And I'm really curious, in the movie, you mentioned how colorful it is. And did you feel like that was something that really played to its strength, and that like in the dark moments they played with color appropriately, in the bright moments it was bright and lively? Did that feel also like it enhanced that story for you? Because it's not in the book.
Yeah, I definitely think so. In fact, one of the moments that really like gets to me emotionally is a combination of not only what the characters are doing, but the beauty of the scene that it's happening in. So I think we'll probably save that till we get to that point in the conversation. But there's a couple of really just like, it makes you feel, especially when I saw this in a movie theater, it makes you feel like a kid. Like you're kind of just in awe at it. And that's not something that happens for me all that often when I'm watching movies like this. So I think that's why it really sticks with me. And I do find it really effective. And it's like, there's not a lot of like super big contrast, I guess. We'll get into, I think that especially towards the end, there's some pretty dramatic differences in the, kind of tone and action that it takes. And they do use some of the lack of color to highlight that at times, I think.
Oh, okay.
So I would say it's not pervasive throughout the whole thing, but there are a couple moments where that juxtaposition is really clear.
Okay. That's really cool. Nice. I like that. Before we dig too much deeper, I just want to give a little random point that I think is interesting. As I said, this is a middle grade book, so it's for a younger audience. The average chapter length. Do you want to guess what the average chapter length is? Because you've seen the book now. You've seen some of the you didn't read it, but you saw some of the chapters.
Based on how long I know it is and how many chapters you said there were, it seems like a few pages at most per chapter.
It's about 2.25 pages, and that includes the illustrations.
That's wild.
Yeah. The shortest chapter is 2 sentences long, 23 words. And I might as well just read it to you.
Jesus wept.
Jesus wept. No. The airship's engine automatically fired up. Then the ship slowly floated about the island, turned to the south, and disappeared into the clouds. Which I'm sure you know where in the book that happens.
Let's see. That's probably about chapter 70-something.
We'll get there. I won't spoil anything. We'll get there. But it's that's the whole chapter. There is an illustration in it, but that's the whole chapter.
I love a good short chapter. This seems a little extreme.
Yeah. But again, middle grade. It's accessible to people who are younger, shorter attention spans.
Again, okay. I don't think it's a negative thing. I really don't think it matters that much, but it's a little short.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very short. But the ending is beautiful. And we will talk about that at the end of the podcast.
That's an interesting time to slot that in, but okay.
Yeah. So there are a ton of deviations, as we've said, between the book and the movie. Not in a bad way. We are not going to get into the super nitty gritty things because that would take us 8 hours. There are like small differences, like the amount of crates that wash up on the shore is different. We're not going to talk about that.
It does not matter.
We're going to go with more broad, overarching things.
Yes.
That is to say, if you watched the movie and you are at all interested in reading the book, read the book, and vice versa, because there is so much new. It's not just a carbon copy.
Right. And obviously we have a lot to get into here, but it's nice that it feels like they're complementary to each other.
Yes. That's a very good way to put it. They are complementary, even though they are different.
Right.
All right, let's talk about the characters.
Yeah. So this is already going to be a pretty massive difference, I think.
Yeah. We got Roz, Rosum Unit 7134. She is the titular wild robot. She exists in both.
I would certainly hope so. We're starting out good here.
Yeah, we're off to a good start.
And so Roz in the film is beautifully voiced. I mean, just fantastic job here by Lupita Nyong'o. She is, I think, one of our great stars that is just totally overlooked right now. I mean, she's been in a couple successful roles, but she's one of these people that, like, she always manages to be, and I'm not going to say she's the sole reason for it, especially not in this movie, but like she's always in these films that feel like they could be so boring and pedestrian and just run-of-the-mill, and they turn into something special, and I think that she is definitely a huge part of it. Another one, she was the star in A Quiet Place Day One. This is the third film in a like kind of whatever, like it's a decent franchise, but it's an ongoing franchise. This is a prequel film that follows none of the main characters of this movie, and she makes it fucking awesome. So I'm a big fan.
I feel like she also is one of those actors that blends so well with everything she does. Even if you're looking at her face, and she's quite striking. She's a beautiful, striking woman, but you don't realize it's her.
Yeah,
she just becomes the character.
Big time.
So it's almost like in that respect, she's like not a selling point because you're like, what? I know the name, but what else was she in? But it's because she does these amazing things and is like a chameleon. I almost said iguana.
Yeah, an iguana.
You know, her eyes go in 5 different directions.
That's how she's able to express so much emotion.
But yeah, she's like a chameleon, and you don't recognize her, and then you go, "Oh my gosh, that was her! She's amazing."
Yeah, absolutely. But she, I think, just does such a good job of bringing Roz to life, and like you said, there's a bit more complexity to Roz in the film compared to the book, I think, and I think she's a huge part of that. And it was a constructed thing. I mean, her and Chris Sanders kind of approached it from, rather than, you know, the kind of typical robot that's very robotic and whatever, and then like has a sudden emotional turn. Hers is a little quicker up front and then gradual as it goes on. You know, you see an evolution in this character, and that's in no small part based on the emotion behind the voice acting.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome. Sounds like she was perfect, because that is a bit how the book feels too, where there's a lot of this early learning, rapid learning and changing, and then that progressive, like, you're not even thinking about her as a robot by the end kind of thing. Like,
absolutely.
She feels very alive.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Next up, we have Bright Bill. This is the gosling that Roz saves and raises. He's a little goofy little goose.
Goofy goose. Yeah, and he is voiced by Kit Connor in the movie, at least the older version of him, which is the majority of the film. There's a short period when he's first born that I did not write down the voice actor for that, but not someone that I recognized. But yeah, so it's mostly Kit Connor.
What would I know Kit Connor from?
Well, one that is very relevant to this show is that he was the voice of Pan in His Dark Materials.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's done a lot of voice work, but not exclusively. He's also, you know, an actor in his own right, but that would probably be the most relevant to our purposes.
All right, cool. Welcome back, Kit Connor. Fink, the fox, who is featured much more heavily in the movie than the book.
Okay, so he is found in the book.
Oh yeah, he's in the book.
Okay.
He's actually like a friend, but he's not as big of a part.
Yeah, he's basically arguably even second main character, but probably third in the film.
Yeah. Who voices him?
Pedro Pascal.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you like that?
I did, yeah. I mean, I'm like with everyone else that I'm like having a little bit of Pedro Pascal fatigue. But I still love the guy, and he did a great job in this movie. It really adds some kind of levity to it that it needs.
And it helps also when it's like a voice acting thing as opposed to like on screen.
Yes.
It's like a taste of Pedro Pascal and
right.
getting his like, range without having to like see him the whole time.
But I do like looking at him too. So
yeah. I do like looking at him also.
The fatigue is mild. Let's put it that way. But he's in a lot of stuff.
He is in a lot of stuff, and good for him.
Yeah. No, he's doing great.
This is going to be our first divergence in the characters, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Loudwing is the older goose who helps Roz figure out what to do with Brightbill. I believe she's not in the movie.
That is correct. There are a couple of other characters that I think kind of take that.
Yeah, it sounds like Long Neck.
Yeah, Long Neck is the only like kind of elder goose to be found.
Yeah.
Who is also in the book, correct?
Yes, he is in the
second
book.
one. Yeah, and he's actually he's a big emotional and like narrative part of the movie, but he is not found for a large portion of the runtime.
Yeah, in the book, he's only in 2 chapters, one of which is just remembering him.
Right.
So
get to that.
Yeah. But I do actually like this change. This is one thing that I prefer over the book. The book at times falls into like stereotypical gender roles. So Loudwing is like the older female goose who helps with like the nurturing.
Oh.
And Longneck is like the leader of the pack.
I see.
Or flock, whatever. And so that they combined it and kind of, made Longneck a little bit of all of this. And I know there's other characters who also take on nurturing roles, but Longneck taking that and like getting rid of Loudwing, I think makes sense to me because it's just like we don't need these gender roles. Like we can just have Loudwing do all of this.
What it feels like the film does instead of like traditional human gender roles is really leaning into animal behavior as kind of the driving force of those character marks. So like, for example, the kind of nurturing mentor for Roz is a mama possum, Pinktail.
Yeah.
Who is voiced, again, miraculously by Catherine O'Hara.
Amazing.
She does just a phenomenal job and is easily my favorite character in the movie.
Does Pinktail talk to Roz about playing dead or anything like
yes.
that? Okay, because that's the only time we actually see Pinktail in the book.
Okay.
And she's like playing dead, and then Roz is like, "That's amazing!" And like the fact that Catherine O'Hara gets to do that is like, mwah, I love it.
It is absolutely hilarious. I mean, this movie has so much humor in it that just absolutely tickles me in all the right spots. And her character, like, clearly they picked up on something that they could take and run with that character from the book. Because, yeah, she is, like, way more prominent. And every single scene with her in it is just so funny. So she is, like, a typical possum mom who has all of these kids constantly, holding on to her, riding her around, running around, getting in trouble. And she's just like so exhausted, so over it. Like, great mom that's just like, oh my God, these demon children will be the death of me. So yeah, she's like, the first time they meet Raj, she's like, taught them how to play dead, and they're all like doing these dramatic death things where they're like, I'm dying of sepsis. No, I said I wanted to have sepsis. And she's like, you don't have to announce how you're dying, you just pretend.
Oh my gosh.
And my absolute favorite line from this movie is when she's trying to comfort Roz, and she's like, as a mother of 7, and then in the background you just hear like a roar and a scream and a chomp, and she's like, 6 babies. It's a full-time thing.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. And that's also, again, something that it seems like both the movie and the book do, they don't shy away from the hard parts of nature.
Yeah.
But I love that they do it so comically.
Yeah.
And they're just like 6 children.
And then shortly thereafter, the child actually comes back and is like, "I'm okay, Mom." And she's like, "Oh, great." It's just so good, man.
I wish they had done more of that with Pinktail, because I think like I really think I like this combination of Longneck, who is Bill Nighy, by the way.
Correct.
This combination of Longneck and Pinktail kind of being the ones coaching Roz with the parental stuff.
Yeah. And Fink gets an element of that as well that I think probably is not in the book.
No, it's not in the book at all. Fink is just like, "Can I eat it?" Like, that's it. That's all he does in the book.
Which he does that a lot in the movie too, but it's like, one of those things where he's like saying that, but he doesn't really mean it.
Yeah. No, he means it in the book. But I like a lot that they combined those characters and got rid of Loudwing. I mean, I love Loudwing in the book, but I think this sounds like a little bit better and a little more humorous and funny.
Just more streamlined.
Yes.
Which I think goes a long way, especially when you're adapting something like that. I mean, this is, again, same thing we say for every movie. Like, you have to be able to cut some of the fat in ways that it's just going to overload and you can't fully explore things to the degree they deserve.
Yeah, but they could have cut Pinktail, because Pinktail has 1 chapter.
Yeah, but I mean,
but it's the better option was to take out the character that is more prevalent than either of the two, and take this humorous character and make her shine.
Yeah,
like they found the character that deserved more page time.
Big time agree.
Yeah. So next we have Mr. Beaver et al. He has a family in the book.
Oh, really?
They rarely come back, but they're around sometimes.
Very much a loner in the movie.
Yeah. Again, that's a good cut the fat place, is to have 1 beaver. But he is supposed to be like this grumpy beaver. He has 1 sentence of being grumpy. Again, we fall into the gender roles of his wife reminding him not to be grumpy. And he basically helps Roz with all her building needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's similar, not too far of a deviation of the character itself in the movie, but he does not have a family. He's kind of just a loner. His name is Paddler.
That's the son's name.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so he's just the main beaver. Voiced by Matt Berry.
Perfect.
Just amazing. Of course, I mean, God, this voice cast is just stellar. He's very much the grumpy man, But yeah, it's consistent throughout, and it's because his one and only goal, how he spends pretty much every day of his life, is trying to cut down the biggest tree on the island. And all of the other animals make fun of him for it, until it ends up saving the day at the end.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. And I like that he is grumpy throughout, because like in the book, I was like, you introduced him as grumpy and he's always excited to help Roz.
Yeah.
He's never once like, "Oh, you did it again, Roz." Like he can be like that grumpy, but he loves you.
Yeah.
That's what he needed to be in the book, and it sounds like they got that.
And they do it in a good way where he's not like annoying because he's grumpy, it's just funny. And of course with Matt Berry voicing him, like it's always going to come across the right way, because just any words that come out of that man's mouth are hilarious.
Amazing voice actor.
Yeah, just actor in general. He's just one of my favorites for sure. But yeah, so it's like kind of there's a hesitance to help a lot, but he still helps, and it's just like, well, you have to say that I was right and you were wrong, and like, just that kind of attitude about it. So it works well.
Oh, I love that again. Then there are the bears. There's 3 bears in the book.
Only one in the movie.
Yeah, there's one in the movie. There's the mama bear and then her 2 children, Nettle and Thorn.
Okay.
And they are the most chaotic cubs constantly, but they appear a lot, but they're so chaotic. And this one, I think it's probably one of those places where in the book, yes, it should be 3 bears because there's more room. But in the movie, you have to trim it down. So you have 1 bear.
Well, so again, they named the one and only bear character after one of the children. Then the main bear is called Thorn in the movie, voiced by Mark Hamill. Also kind of just very grumpy, not a ton of lines or anything. But it's very funny the way it's like, he's a big threat for most of the movie, kind of, the one they keep running into that tries to hunt them down or this or that, whatever. They're trying to run away. But at the end, it's, everyone's kind of like still on pins and needles around him, but he's helping everyone. So it's very heartwarming in that way.
Okay, yeah, that's funny. The cubs are like the chaotic one that's doing all this, and then the mother bear is always like, "Stop it!" And I'm like, "But you're like a apex predator." Like, what do you? Yeah, I guess some bears eat like berries and stuff, but also you eat fish.
Which we'll have to get into the actual, ecological science behind some of the message that this movie the story is trying to portray.
The book nails it, because they're very specifically like, these are the specific times we meet to talk, and you don't hunt. The rest of the time you can hunt.
Okay. The movie does like gloss over that by the end a little bit, which is like, it's not a big deal for this movie, obviously, like it doesn't matter, but in the back of my head, I'm thinking like, okay, this is all well and good, but like, how are any of you going to eat?
Yeah, exactly. You're like, so this is like a, what is the herbivore? Herbivorean utopia. We're just gonna let all of the other apex predators go extinct.
They don't go into the diet science after that point, but
a shame.
It is a shame.
A shame. So the final character I want to talk about is Chit Chat, who is a squirrel and is Brightbill's best friend in the book. Really doesn't do much. Like, she's definitely around and she appears a lot, but her name is Chit Chat, so she takes up a lot of her space by just speaking about inane things that don't matter.
Okay.
And then you're like, what did Chit Chat do? Nothing. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that's the same name, and I don't know that they ever named the character, but there is that character in the movie that's just kind of this like squirrel that wanders in, and like they don't seem to have any direct friendship with Bright Bill or anything, but they kind of just wander in and give a quip and walk away. Some great comic relief moments with this character, but I didn't even like write it down as a main character because it's not that prominent, but it seems to be taking that role.
Yeah.
Just some truly hilarious lines delivered. My favorite probably being once they like fight off the robots at the end. She comes in and is like, "Okay, and now let us divide the robot meat amongst us." And another animal is like, "You scare me."
That's so good. All right, tell me about some of the characters that are not in the book or that you wrote down as important characters that I did not.
So for the most part, they actually just combined some of these characters. It seems more than adding or changing, they just kind of cut some and put them into some of the existing characters. But there are at least 2 more kind of noteworthy characters, both pretty small amount of screen time, but like big impact on the story. So one is Thunderbolt, who is voiced by Ving Rhames, which is like a falcon or something. I think a falcon.
I think he's a falcon, yeah.
Yeah, and he just kind of like helps Bright Bill learn how to fly when they're kind of struggling to get him started.
Okay.
And kind of encourages him, and he's complaining about his little tiny runt wings and stuff, and he's like, no, you have the strength, whatever, just kind of that role, and then kind of fades into the background again until the very end. So not a very prominent role, just kind of an extra character for fun. And then there is Vantra, who is basically, I think again this is where it really deviates in terms of the specifics that happen, but towards the end, when the company Universal Dynamics, when they come to pick up Roz after she has transmitted her location, this is kind of like the lead robot that's leading the charge to bring her back.
Yeah, she is not in the book.
Yeah,
neither of those characters are in the book.
And she's voiced by Stephanie Sue.
What would I know her from?
Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
cool.
Been in a bunch of stuff actually, but
yeah. I'm about to get.
I mean that's pretty much it of like the super noteworthy characters. I'm sure there's a few like background little moments with different things that aren't in the movie, but like again, those are just like little details. So nothing else major. The only other like named character, I don't know if they're in the book or not, is Rummage.
No. So, she's not in the book.
Okay. Rummage is the name that Roz gives to one of the other robots that crash landed, one of the other Rosum models, that she like goes and finds and has a short conversation with. She calls her Rummage and gets some parts from her and stuff. That's about it.
Yeah, there are no other robots except for the 3 at the very end, but none of the Rosm units come to life.
Okay.
All right, let's get into the plot. I've broken this down into kind of big sections to hopefully make things clear, because things do get a little confusing with the differences. But I'm just going to start with the arrival and how Roz ends up on the island.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, a ship sinks in a hurricane and 5 crates wash up with the robots. Only Roz survives, and she is activated by the most adorable and curious otters on the face of the planet.
So cute.
Oh my gosh, the illustration is so freaking cute.
I'm going to have to go back and look at that.
Yeah, absolutely you are. Is that about what happens in the movie?
Yeah, it's like I made a note right away that it doesn't waste any time. Like, it's boots on the ground running. Basically in media res when it starts. Like, you don't see a crash, there's no lead up about, most of these movies would have like you'd see the plane or see the boat on its way and then see the storm and whatever. And then, it doesn't do that. It just starts with the otters playing by the beach, and then they come across Roz, who then wakes up.
Okay.
And we're off and running.
Yeah, that's super similar. Next section I have is, I called it Surviving, which is pre-Bright Bill.
Right.
Just kind of about her getting her feet on the island. And she, the first thing she does in the book is she's like, I'm going to go find a safe place. And she just goes and like stands in a clearing of pine trees. And then like pine cones are falling on her. And she's like, not as safe as I thought it was. So she like moves on, finds somewhere else, powers down for the night. The next day she gets caught in a mudslide, manages to escape, stumbles into a bear den. The Thistle, Nettle, and Thorn, whatever their names are, chase her out. She gets chased up a tree where she ends up getting pooped on by a robin. She scoots away down the branch. The branch breaks. She gets pooped on again. And then she spends a few weeks learning about camouflage, or she camouflages herself and kind of just moves around the island for a few weeks, learning about the animals.
Right, okay. Yeah, this part's basically the same. I mean, there's, again, a few little differences that aren't super important, but it's just she is trying to figure out what the heck's going on, why she's there. It's important to note that Roz is has not been like transferred from some other job or something. Like, she's straight from the factory.
Yeah.
With like the only thing is the programming that she's been given by Universal Dynamics. So the point of a Rosm is that a Rosm always completes its task. Just ask. And so that's what she's trying to do. What is her task? Who is her customer? Who has ordered her?
So in the book, she's sort of a little bit different in that she's like, okay, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I guess this is what I'm supposed to do. Stand in one spot until someone needs me. Like, she's not looking for things to do.
Which is like a funny way for a robot to go about it. It makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to tell me and I'll just wait.
Yeah.
So there's some pretty good images of her just standing there in the middle of trees. It's really funny.
Yeah, so they do kind of do that where she's like started to like go around to some of the different animals and try to talk to them and like see like, are you who ordered me? Like, do you have a task? And none of them obviously want to talk to her, and they're all like kind of squeaking and squawking at her, and she doesn't understand them. So she's like, okay, well, obviously I need to figure out how to translate their language. So that's when she just like kind of powers down into a hibernation monitoring mode and sits there, and you see like a montage of things happening in front of her, silly animals doing silly things, until she eventually is able to piece all their languages together, and all of them have just normal English voices after that.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what happens in the book, where she learns their languages by... She's moving around in camouflage. It's so funny. She's like a lump of seaweed, and then she's like a new rock appears, and like all the animals are like, that wasn't there before. Okay, whatever.
They should have done more of that in the movie, I think.
Yeah, I think that would have been really funny to just have like her in one spot, and you see like her little eyes blinking in a pile of seaweed, and like the otters playing.
Yeah, stuff. They do a little bit of it here and there, but not to that degree.
Yeah, especially if you're doing a montage.
Yeah,
just do it. Is this the part in the book where she tries to call home to say where she is, or
no?
Okay, So this is also the point where we've met Fink before, but this is where we like really meet Fink, and he has a face full of porcupine quills.
Mm-hmm.
If you have porcupine quills in your face, please do not pull them out. Go to the ER. Yes. Do not do what the book says and pull them out on your own.
I don't think they had a local medical facility on this island.
I don't think they did either. But if you or your pet in the real life gets hit by a porcupine, you need emergency medical care.
Or call your ROSM unit.
Which you do not have. So go to a doctor.
Okay.
How do Fink and Roz meet?
Right, so I might be skipping ahead a little bit for you, but this is the point where she's, again, continuing, like, she learned the language, so then she starts trying to communicate with them in their own language, and still none of them are having it. They're too scared of this big, giant, scary robot. So she is, again, just kind of wandering around the island, and she ends up falling, and then I think that's when she runs into the bear initially, who like kind of attacks her, and so she continues to fall, and she gets like partially dismantled by raccoons, like all sorts of things, and then eventually she lands on a bird nest.
Okay, so that is a little bit farther.
And then she meets Fink.
Okay, so in the movie she's chased by bears, which is how she basically falls into the accident and destroys the bird nest.
Yeah, same thing.
So in the book, she's climbing down a cliff, just moving spots, when a storm strikes, and the cliff face can't hold her, and she falls into a tree, destroys the goose nest. There's 2 adult mama papa geese, a few other eggs. All of them are destroyed except for one egg, which she takes. She's like, okay, well, I have to do something good, so I'll protect this egg. Builds a little nest on her shoulder and carries it around. Real cute. And then the bird hatches, and that's when she goes to Loudwing for help.
Okay. So yeah, just the slight difference there being same thing, the mama, papa, whatever, all the siblings are gone. And so she finds this egg, which is immediately stolen by Fink. So she has to kind of run him down because she's like, please confirm that belongs to you. And chases him down. And in the midst of that, she like grabs the egg, and he has a fall and lands directly on face first into a porcupine.
Okay.
So she then removes the quills for him, and he's like at first runs away and then kind of finds her again, and is thankful for helping him. And by this point, Bright Bill has hatched.
Okay. Yeah. And in the book, Loudwing gives him the name Bright Bill. In the movie, it's Fink?
Yeah, it's actually Roz herself, but it's prompted by Fink being like, you need to name her. And so all of that it sounds like is wrapped up into a couple characters. It's like this is the point where she both kind of starts this partnership with Fink and then meets Pinktail as well. And Pinktail's the one that's like, Roz is like, I'm supposed to complete a task. And she's like, well, clearly this is your task to take care of this gosling.
Oh, okay. That's really sweet. I like that. Like, this is your task. You're a mama.
Yeah.
You're a mama. I didn't even mention Pinktail because she gets a chapter that's like a paragraph long.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
Yeah. So once Bright Bill has hatched and been named, we move on to Mr. Beaver, who helps build, it's the lodge, but it's called The Nest. And that is where Roz and Bright Bill basically live. And they have like a garden, and this is where the defecation comes in because they build they have help with the garden, and the moles dig the thing. And it's a pretty cool little scene of them getting the garden set up.
Okay. Yeah, so they do the same thing with building the nest. I don't think they ever call it that, but it's basically just a giant beaver dam. But they don't employ the beaver to help them. Rather, they decide to just go steal his dam and then model it after it. And then he comes back very grumpy and upset and says, "You've stolen my design." And as he's carrying his dam back home.
He carries the whole
thing.
Damn,
Yeah.
That's super.
Because
funny.
they've just taken it in one solid piece and brought it and modeled the thing after it.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But there's so many cute little things with this. So like Roz is the one that builds the whole structure, right? Since the paddler is not helping them. But it's like one of these things where, it's like these little touches of parenthood that are kind of fun, where, she's like taking these gigantic logs and stacking them super fast because she's a robot, and then Bright Bill is like beep beep beep, trying to like and carrying these little twigs and trying to like help out, and she's like, your ineffectual helping is not going to expedite this process, and Fink like gives her a look, and she's like, okay, fine. And so it's just this little cut back and forth of her like stacking all these logs and then like holding Bright Bill up to put his little twig on there.
Oh my
It's so cute, man. There are so many touches that make this movie so special.
Oh my gosh, my heart.
I know. You have got to watch it. You have to be emotionally prepared, but you have got to watch this movie.
Yeah, I'm going to cry through this whole movie. I'm going to be like, oh my gosh, that's so freaking cute. Oh, my heart is so full of joy just hearing about Bright Bill placing his little twig on top.
It's so sweet.
I am so in love already.
It should also be noted that Fink is motivated to do all this because, like we said, he's all about what he can eat. Right, he's constantly, all the other animals call him the jerk because he's just constantly hunting them or doing something to try to get food somehow or another, And so basically Pinktail had broken down her new task of taking care of Bright Bill into he must eat, he must swim, and he must fly. Those are her 3 tasks that she has to perform. So they start with eat, right? And so Fink is all about this because he gets to go enjoy the spoils of all these failed, they go and try to catch some clams and like Bright Bill can't eat them, but Fink like gobbles them up, like all these different things. So he's very much in this for the food at the start.
That's like me. I get it. Me and Fink. Perfect. So they go on, and I think maybe the order is a little different here, so I'm gonna kind of combine a few things. But Bright Bill actually teaches himself to fly with the help of his computer mom, who has an encyclopedic knowledge. And she has observed other birds and is able to understand like the aerodynamics and everything like that. So no one helps him but Roz. And then Bright Bill asks about his family, his original family, where he came from. He learns that they died, and I think she even admits, like, there was an accident, I fell on them, and I wanted to save you. And he's like, oh, we are different from everyone, but that's okay. And we are happy together. He then wants to learn about robots, but Roz won't take him to the robot graveyard, which is the beach where they've all washed up. But he runs away in a huff. And she follows after him. They end up getting to the graveyard, and he learns about robots and a little bit. She doesn't know a lot about where she's from, but a little bit about like how they work, where she's from, how she has a button on the back of her head and stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, this all goes like slightly differently in the movie. So this is the point where there's like just like a very short scene where he is like grown up. So this is now the point where he's like the little tiny chirp chirp, Gosling, and then starts being voiced by Kit Connor and is very much like a teenage figure at this point. And then same thing, like there's a bunch of, back and forth with them, but, they're still trying to like practice swimming and this and that. And then basically like when he starts to feel a little bit better about swimming, she goes and introduces him to the rest of the flock of geese. And he's very quickly ostracized from them. And they make fun of him, and they're scared of Roz still, and blah, blah, blah. So he, basically they're the ones that let him know, like, hey, that monster is who killed your family. And so he confronts her about it, and he does not have an immediately positive reaction like that. There's a little more kind of drama given to it, but it's very short-lived. So basically, this is the point where Roz does go to the other robots, but she doesn't go with him. So he's like already stormed off, right?
Okay.
So she gives him the space, and this is where she goes and finds the other Rosum unit, names it Rummage, gets some parts from her, and basically the other robot is like, you have to return to the factory. That's your purpose, right? And she starts to agree, and then goes to like activate this transmitter that she's been given to alert them to her location. But then Fink follows her and points out that the other geese are starting to fly and that Brightbill is running out of time. So he basically convinces her that they have to go try to teach him how to fly. And so, by this point he's calmed down and they all kind of get back together again with the goal of learning to fly.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's really, really different.
Yeah, quite different. But yet it still does the same thing.
Yes. Except there's no transmitter in the book.
Right.
At all. So that's one of the big differences.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does in the end accomplish the same thing. And I do like that Fink is more present because he is even funny in the book, but he's just not around very much.
Mm-hmm. They're like co-parenting at this point.
I love that.
Yeah.
That would be, I think that would be fun to have like some kind of co-parent in the book or something like that, even if she's like the main one, to have a few more consistent characters rather than like they pop up every 20 chapters, which is not an exaggeration. The book is 80 chapters long.
And it's kind of sweet too because Fink is like, he's a bit of a like pessimist, like he constantly is talking about how his family never loved him and he was abandoned and this and that, but yet he seems to understand it quite well, and he's very much one of the ones that teaches Roz about love, and how to care for something, even though he acts like he doesn't care. Mm-hmm. It's kind of sweet.
He's the grumpy with a heart of gold.
Right.
Yeah. Good. So is there a wooden foot?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was gonna just cut the whole podcast if there was no wooden foot. So the wooden foot happens now for me. It's the bears attack Roz again. This time one of them pops her foot off, and Mr. Beaver enlists some help, and over a few weeks they are able to create a wooden foot with like wood, obviously, vines and sap, and the illustrations are so amazing. She's got this big old like boot. It's just the best part of the book is those illustrations. They're so fun. That's
super cute. I don't even remember exactly how it happens, but there's kind of two sequences, both with like both centering around training Brightbill in some way, whether it's the swimming or the flying, or even later on helping all the animals during the storm, where like Roz is clearly sacrificing like her physical well-being, which is obviously very like motherhood coded, parenthood in general coded. But yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where she's like destroying her body for his benefit. And that's one of the things is that she ends up having to get the wooden foot.
Okay. Is it just as terrific in the movie? Like, does she get like a big goofy foot? Or is it like slick and it kind of fits?
It fits a little bit. It's a little clunky.
Nah, it's got to be a big old clunky boot.
Yeah, no, it's not quite like that.
All right, we're giving a point to the book because that is just the best. It's like there are pictures of her walking through the snow like a little bit later, and like she's got this one foot in the air, and it's just this giant boot. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
But what I do love about it on that note is that so that happens. That's obviously like a really noticeable thing that she's part wood now.
Yes.
But throughout all of this and throughout the rest of the movie, she is slowly like I said, like she's taking a physical toll. She's getting scratched up, dented, whatever, all this stuff, but she's also like getting dirtier. Like her character is like literally dirtier, you can see on screen, and she starts like growing moss on her and stuff like that. So like it's a slow development that's kind of happening with her.
Yeah, and we don't really see that in the book, but it is present, and the biggest moment you see that is toward the end where they're like, oh, she's covered in mud and sticks and twigs and moss, but like you see a little bit of that, but you don't get to see the slow progression throughout. So, and that's one of the benefits of a visual medium is you can just kind of put it in. You don't have to like take up a sentence to say, and she had a new ding and she had a new scratch,
Yeah.
But the wooden boot is my favorite part. So winter comes, and there's like it's kind of in two sections in the book, but basically the winter's excessively harsh this year.
Yeah.
It is, there's like a frozen weasel at some point and stuff like that. And those animals do actually die, but it's dealt with very, very well. But Roz, her nest collapses at one point while she's hanging out doing
what's happening with Bright Bill at this point?
He's taken off to migrate.
Right.
But that's all we know.
That's kind of important.
But yeah, he has.
So just I want to just touch on this. There's like a whole montage sequence where he finally learns how to fly.
Okay.
Very important to this story. And so it's basically like this is the point where Roz does meet Longneck. Okay. And is kind of like, you know, he already knows about her. He knows about Bright Bill, which she's surprised about. And he's like kind of commending her on her, you know, taking up this role and how much progress they've made. But he's just being very realistic. He's like, unless he can maintain flight the entire day from sun up to sundown, that's what's needed for this migration. He won't survive it, you know, basically. So he's like, if you can go really hard for the next couple weeks, and he can do that, then he can join us, you know. Oh. And so they do this whole training thing, and he's like carrying these heavy stones and flying all day, you know. And there's like the really triumphant moment where he's like trying so hard, and he has this rock on him, and the sun is like starting to go down behind the horizon, and he finally makes it. And so, you know, Longneck invites him to not only fly as part of the group, but to join Longneck himself's like little group.
Okay. Yeah, Longneck appears in the book, and it's basically they're getting ready to migrate, and they're like, all right, everyone, fly with your group, fly with your family. And Roz is like, what about Bright Bill? He doesn't have a family. And Longneck is like, he can fly with me. Okay, bye. And then they're gone.
Okay, I think I like the movie's handling of that a bit better.
Yeah, because Longneck is literally like barely in the book.
This is like one of the number one moments in this movie for me, so I have to talk about it. When they go to leave, it's a very emotional moment. This is a goodbye, you know, because they don't know how long Bright Bill's going to be gone. They don't know what Roz is going to be doing. At this point, she's kind of completed her task, so she thinks like she's probably going to return to the factory now. So it's not even clear if she's going to stick around or not. But they basically are having their goodbye, and, you know, this is immediately after he has finished all of his flight training and everything, but he's like, you know, I could use a boost. And so she had been, like, kind of helping him fly. Like, part of the way that she was helping train him was he would, like, sit on her shoulder, and she would run, and then he'd, like, open his wings and start to, you know, pick up into the air or whatever. And so they do that again, and so she, like, has the running start, and there's all these like butterflies flying and all the geese taking off and everything, and she's just like running with her arms out, and he's standing on her shoulder and then takes off. And I cry every time I see it.
Yeah, it's making me a little weepy just hearing about it.
It's just a truly beautiful moment.
Yeah, that is super, super beautiful. So we will talk about what Bright Bill does during his migration.
Yes.
But first, we are going to talk about what happens on the island/beach, depending on which version.
You wrote that down? This is on an island.
Really?
I don't know where you got that from.
I read that it was on the coast of Oregon.
No, it's 100% on an island.
Okay, someone lied to me. So, okay, on the island. And it's actually pretty simple and straightforward for the book. Roz, her shelter collapses partway through with snow. She rebuilds it, and she realizes, like, oh, look, this weasel is frozen and stuff like that. And she decides to bring a bunch of the animals into her shelter to stay warm. And she realizes that this winter is so unbelievably harsh that she has to build more of these lodges. So she's slowly going around building lodges everywhere, teaching them how to maintain fires and stuff like that. And then, shockingly, one of the lodges catches on fire. And there's like a little bunny rabbit. What are baby rabbits called? I don't know.
Anyway,
there's a little baby rabbit that's like trapped in the lodge. Roz gets it out, and then she like climbs the trees and shakes them so the snow falls on it and puts the fire out.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Yeah, and then they rebuild this lodge even better than it was before. And this is a lodge that's big enough for a moose, so it's like a big one. And that's kind of like her whole winter is just building up the island so the animals that are left can survive, because they're really, really struggling.
Interesting. So yes, this is definitely where it takes a pretty big deviation. Again, it very much accomplishes the same things, just in a very different way. So it's kind of like her and Fink, they see Bright Bill off and they're like, well, okay, I guess it's time to do our plan, which is for Fink to go hibernate and Roz to go back to the factory. So he goes, and they're kind of like, they both kind of want to say, like, shouldn't we just stay together and, be a family or whatever and wait for Bright Bill to come back? But neither of them do, so he goes to hibernate and she goes to turn on her transmitter. And so he does turn it on, but she ends up changing her mind. It's not entirely clear why. But yeah, so there's like been a big storm. The winter, like you said, has become really, really harsh. And so she ends up just going back to her shelter. And then Fink ends up finding her there because he got like snowed out of his hibernation den, basically. And then so that's when he like kind of tells her, like, she's just been kind of in there chilling, like waiting. I guess she's basically just decided to wait for Bright Bill herself. She kind of goes and looks for Fink and can't find him and whatever. So he basically is like, hey, this winter's really bad, and like there's a bunch of like animals freezing to death or so, basically. And so then that's when they both like go and rescue all of them. There's like another montage of all of them like caught in these situations, and they go and help them out through one means or another. Rather than building a bunch of different shelters, they all just crash inside the one shelter, which of course has some of its own hijinks.
Yeah.
Where she like, they finally have like all of the animals are there until they're like, oh wait, there's one more missing. It's Thorn the bear. So she has to go like get the bear. And when she comes back, all the animals are fighting. They're trying to eat each other or whatever. And this is where she is like almost about to power down at this point. She's like sacrificed so much of herself for everyone to keep them safe, and she just like can't even like stay alert anymore or whatever. So Fink delivers the speech of like, we all have to get along, and I know I want to eat a bunch of you too, but we're not going to do it because we have to survive the winter. And that's when they all agree to live in harmony inside the shelter.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that kind of just like, it's just like a rule Roz decides in the book. She's like, you're not going to eat each other while you're in here. And everyone's like, agreed. And it's like, it's given a couple of sentences, but yeah, we don't really like see the conflict. But the book, while it talks about a lot of these things, it doesn't like show you the conflict between the animals, which I suppose is like, the book doesn't talk about the semantics of this animal needs to eat other animals, but it does show the conflict and tensions, whereas the book goes the other way and doesn't show the conflict and tensions, but does talk about how this stuff happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it does just make for some really funny moments like that. The moment where Fink is trying to get all their attention, there's all this chaos and they're trying to eat each other or whatever and arguing and yelling. And so he's like, and everybody shut up. And everyone like just keeps going about their business. And then I think it's the, what's the animal
squirrel?
With the squirrel? I think it's the squirrel that just goes like, and everyone stops. And they're just like, the jerk wants to speak.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, that's the movie definitely has more humor.
Yes.
Than the book. The book has funny moments like the robin pooping and then pooping again.
Right.
But it doesn't have quite as many of those like really funny moments that are like, oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. That's hilarious.
It really balances it all out to me because, I mean, just the amount of, I mean, it's like a little bit of whiplash, I guess, but the amount of times that you're just like, crying from emotion and then going to just pure laughter there's a lot of it.
Yeah. And the book sort of takes more of a middle ground. It doesn't really play with your emotions like that.
Right.
You kind of, like, you do feel things and it's a fun book, but you don't have that fluctuation as much. But it's also longer and you don't want to be on that roller coaster like that the whole time.
No,
you want
a
a little
much,
bit of
yeah.
a smoother ride.
No, this is something you can get away with an hour, 40-minute movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the point where, in the book, Bright Bill returns and recounts the migration.
Yeah.
And we learn kind of that the storms were really bad. So this is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
The storms are super bad. The geese were all struggling. They were blown around. They were blown off course. They make it to a farm where like a friendly cat was like, if I was younger, I'd eat you all. But
that's very funny. That's not in the movie.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But instead, the cat is like, you can just live in the greenhouse for a little bit and rest. And this is where we encounter our first human who gets really upset at seeing all the geese in his greenhouse and shoots Longneck. And that is how Longneck dies. They flee the greenhouse with Brightbill as the leader, and on their way to continue migrating, they see a factory where these rosin units are being made. And then they go on to this like beautiful pond where all these other geese are, and they learn that they are not the only ones who suffered casualties, and that some flocks didn't make it at all.
Interesting.
That the weather is just horrendous.
Yeah, which this is obviously a pretty, it's less directly talked about, but there's clearly an element of climate change to this.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't call a major theme, but it's certainly an aspect, because all of this has happened. I mean, from the very get-go, the cargo ship crashing, the bad winter, like all this stuff is driven by storms. So it's kind of like a background catalyst for things.
Yeah, and in the book, even the loss of Brightbill's family is a storm.
Yeah, right. That's true. So a lot of this is roughly the same. Again, just some of the details. So they hit a storm. They have to stop. They find that it's like this, like kind of. Do they describe the farm at all?
A little bit, but it kind of, from what I remember, it's like it's a farm.
It's just a farm, because in the movie it shows it as this very like futuristic, like agricultural dome.
They do have robots in the greenhouse, but apart from that, it's like a standard farm.
Well, this is something that kind of adds to that element of the climate change, because you kind of, I mean, it's only visual. It's not like delving into any details here, but you see them approach in this really bad storm, and it's like, it seems very desolate wherever they are. This is shortly after, like, which I don't know, maybe this is supposed to be set like off the coast of Oregon. I'm not entirely sure, because you see them like going over the Golden Gate Bridge at one point, like right before this bad storm. But anyway, so they end up in this, agricultural dome that's like surrounded by this desolate looking area, and it's like this one big bright point. So there's the implication that, maybe certain areas are not livable, or like can't grow crops anymore or something, without basically creating its own biosphere. I don't know. Just it's very much just like a matter of fact thing that happens, but I do think it's like kind of an interesting aspect to it.
Yeah, this sounds like Horizon Zero Dawn before Horizon Zero Dawn.
Sure. But yeah, so they get like stuck in this this dome, and there are a bunch of the Rosums there, and so once the robots see the birds, they target them as like a contamination, and they bring out like the guard robots or whatever to try to stop them. So they have to immediately flee, basically. And it's basically just like all the other birds are panicking, and Brightbill is not, because he knows that they're not going to hurt them. They might like try to capture them, but they're not going to actually like kill them. Which also doesn't make sense, because Longneck does die, but
yeah. Well, maybe he's just like when you're really old and you just have a heart attack.
Yeah, it doesn't explicitly say what happens. Like, there's not a farmer that comes and shoots him.
Yeah.
But basically, Longneck is just like, you have to take charge. You're the only one that's not, like, panicking, because the robots. You grew up with them, so you have to take charge and help everyone, like, get out of here. So basically, that's what happens. Brightbill leads them all out and leads them home, and Longneck doesn't make it out.
what does happen to like how he just has a heart attack? He's just like, you have to go on, and then they all leave, and he's like, oh, thank God.
I mean, again, like, probably a good thing that they don't just like actively show like this elderly bird parental figure like get blown up or something,
I guess, you don't really want to show a goose getting shot.
Yeah, it's just like heavily implied, and then when they get back, Fink asks about Longneck, and Bright Bill just like shakes his head like, no, he didn't make it.
He didn't make it. He's in Copacabana enjoying the rest of his old
sipping on
life.
pina coladas.
He's at the lake here where all the geese.
Yeah.
He didn't make it. He's just in Monterey. I mean, if they flew south past San Francisco,
Yeah, it's true.
We're gonna go find Longneck.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's probably a better way to deal with Longneck's death than showing him getting shot.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. You can be a little more direct on the page, I think, but it's not something you want to visually see.
Yeah, in the book, it is sort of like, oh, it gets pointed at, and they hear a bang, and Longneck is dead, and then they're all like, ah! So it's kind of like you're able to get through it quickly and easily, and not, horribly. So that's after Bright Bill has returned. Right? He recounts it, or do you see it?
It's kind of a cut back and forth situation.
Okay.
Which makes sense for the movie,
Okay.
It's a bit of both. Like, some of it is shown directly, like the escape, but the rest is him just recounting.
Okay. Which, again, recounting works a little bit better in a book because you're not just having a bird sit there and be like, let me tell you about what happened. Like, don't just show me. But that brings us to basically the Act 3 climax of the book. Mm-hmm. And with Bright Bill home, they Roz decides to have a party.
Oh.
She's like, everyone come here at dusk. It's gonna be a party. And then everyone shows up.
Is that how Roz talks?
Yeah, that's exactly how she talks.
Wow.
And then they all show up, and there's like a giant bonfire, and she's like covered in twigs and mud, and she's like, yeah, let's party. And they're like dancing around a bonfire.
Okay.
Which is like so bizarre. Really bizarre. And they just party all night, and then in the morning, she and Bright Bill see a ship in the distance. And that ship sees the bonfire at night. And I'm sorry. The ship sees the bonfire and sees the robot. And then an airship flies over at sunrise. Mm-hmm. And this airship actually does land on the island. And we get the 3, I think they're the Rico robots. Okay. They're there to basically repossess the robot. And there's only 3 of them. We don't have that 4th one that you mentioned, Vontra. Mm-hmm. And they're basically a series of hijinks at this point. Should I just get into that?
Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah.
Because this is where things get really different.
I mean, again, you don't have to like detail all the hijinks, but just touch on a couple things.
So the robots separate to find Roz because she's run away. And one of them is like led down a series of traps by all the small animals. It is then trampled by the moose.
Oh my.
And they steal its gun.
Okay.
The second one gets beaten up by the bear cubs near a waterfall. And right when one of the bear cubs is about to like go over the edge of the waterfall with the robot, all the fish swim up and save the bear. So that's kind of a sweet moment. Sweet. And then the last one tromps around all over the island, makes it back to the beach, but has no idea where Roz is, even though it can sense her electrical signals.
Okay.
Well, conveniently, there's a lump of seaweed that wasn't there before. Oh my God. She grabs the gun. In the struggle, this rifle explodes. Roz is just a head and a torso after that.
Wow.
There is nothing left to her but a head and a torso. And the other robot, although it is banged up, is okay and is able to switch her off. The animals arrive, and right as like it's about to like move her or something like that, they shoot the robot with the gun they stole. And Bright Bill, I think, boots her up again. And then the robot's like, they'll never stop coming for you. And she's like, oh, shit. So the animals can't do much to help Roz at this point. She is torso, head. They can't repair her. After some thought, she's like, they're not going to stop coming for me, and I need repairs to continue functioning. So they all pack up the airship with all the robot parts and Roz. There are some very sweet goodbyes. Nothing particularly long, except for obviously Bright Bill, who she promises she's going to do everything she can to come back. And then the ship takes off, which is where that 2-sentence chapter is. It is chapter 79 out of 80.
I was right.
Yeah. You said 70.
I said 70-something.
Okay. I'll give it to you. And then in chapter 80, she basically just recalls kind of what happened. And the story ends with, she would get the repairs she needed. She would escape from her new life. She would find her way back home. Which is completely different from how the movie ends.
Kind of.
Quite different.
I
Similar
think
sentiment?
It's the same sentiment. It just... Yeah. It just goes a little further with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going back to like the kind of point of deviation, so it's basically, you know, the birds come back, Fink comes and greets Bright Bill, and Roz is still at a distance, and she's about to come say hello, but then she realizes that all of the flock are celebrating Bright Bill now, rather than ostracizing him. So she realizes that he has, you know, he's found his place in the world. And so she kind of takes that as like, she's done her job, and it's probably best just to let him, you know, go on as a goose. So she then goes and reactivates her transmitter, and a ship arrives to try to collect her. So like I said, there's the difference in kind of how it goes. There's Vantra, who's kind of leading the thing and is, you know, trying to say that they basically, the company wants her to study like all the things that she's monitored, because they've, you know, they want the data of having one of their robots in like this setting, you know, that's different than anything they've, you know, analyzed before. So they are trying to basically take her, which implies that they are going to remove her memory, which will shut her down.
Yes.
So they try all that. There's a lot of back and forth. There's all the robots. So it's basically like this little miniature army of robots is going around the island, and Vantra is basically the one like directly dealing with Roz. Bright Bill comes and like saves her off the ship. It seems as though her memory was wiped, but then like as soon as Bright Bill comes, she like reactivates and remembers him, you know? And so they basically all like band back together after they get off the ship. Like all the animals take like kind of a final stand. And it's, you know, some of I don't think they use any of the exact same situations, but kind of the same thing of them just like defeating some of the robots. You know, it's a very chaotic action sequence where a lot is going on. One of my favorite things is that they do a callback similar to one of the things that you mentioned, but so at the beginning, after Roz learns the languages and she goes to approach a group of the animals, the little squirrel comes up and is just like, "Are you gonna kill us?" And she's like, "No." And so it turns around and screams to the whole group of animals, "It said no!" And then immediately the moose comes and like whacks her with his antlers. And so the same exact scene happens with one of these other robots.
Yeah.
And it like the squirrel asks, "Are you trying to kill us?" And it like it points a gun at it or something. And it's like, "It said yes." And then the moose comes in and whacks it again. So it's just a funny callback, but yeah, so they defeat all of the robots basically. And same thing, they're never going to stop coming, you know, whatever. And so this is also the point where they combine the fire aspect.
Yes.
In this situation. So, like, during all of this, the shooting and explosions and blah, 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 like, a fire starts on the island in the forest. And so this is the point where they go and ask Paddler, can you help us? We need your big tree. And so basically they all like come, he's eaten well into this gigantic tree. It's taken him years to get this far or whatever. So all the animals band together and like push from the bottom of the cut part of the tree and eventually knock it over. And basically they dump this ginormous tree into a river and it splashes water over the whole fire and stops it.
I love that.
Yeah. It's a good way to bring all of it, to a full circle moment.
Yeah, it feels like there's a little bit more of that full circle in the movie also.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, we got the camouflage again, but I do think there's a few more callbacks in the movie, like with not Paddler, with the squirrel chit chat being like, are you going to kill us? And then like the answer being different, but the consequence being exactly the same, and just those kinds of things, like they come back and they're woven throughout. Which might just be also a style of middle grade writing where it's a little bit more compartmentalized.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I like that. I think that's great.
Sure. And then, yeah, that's basically it. I mean, they, all the animals offer to help fight off whoever comes because they want Roz to stay. And she's just like, no, you guys need your peace, basically. It'll never stop as long as I'm here, so I should go where I belong. And so she decides to let herself be taken. A different ship comes and they, she flies away, and then you see kind of the aftermath with all the animals that they continue living together. There is the implication that maybe there's still a little bit of hunting and things going on, but mostly they all get along, and the bear like kind of, jokes that he's still gonna hunt Fink and stuff, but then it's just like, I'm just kidding. Stuff like that. So, and then the very, very end is that Roz has been assigned to some agricultural dome, might be the same one that Bright Bill was in, might not, I don't know. And is just kind of working in the fields, doesn't have her memories, but then one day Bright Bill shows up at the farm and says hello to her, and she immediately recognizes him and says, I love you too, and they embrace, and the movie ends, and I cry for 10 minutes.
Wow, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Yeah, definitely series potential.
Yeah.
As we say in the biz, a standalone with series potential. Yeah. That's it just sounds like such a sweet, nice movie.
It really is.
And I think the book was written with the trilogy in mind. There was no standalone potential for this book. It was, no, this is going to be a trilogy.
Okay.
But like that's what the ending makes me think. But also this was an author who had really established himself and proven his track record and proven himself to his editors and everything. So I think they were really willing to take that risk on him.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously with movies, that's not a series with a track record yet, or names with track records like that. So you do kind of have to play it a little bit differently, and give it some kind of ending that is satisfying, but does allow for continuation, because it is, in the end, there is a lot more that can be done. Yeah,
they could very much go either way with it. And I don't know what their intentions are. I haven't seen anything official yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. It was fairly successful, both, box office wide and criticism wide. So, I could see them doing a sequel to it for sure. You don't know what really happens in the sequels or anything, do you?
No. So there's actually 4 books, but the last one is like kind of a different, it's not like part of the trilogy.
That's the one that came out this year?
Yes. Okay. But it is basically like going back and then like protecting the island or something like that, like finding her way back home, and then I think protecting the island. Okay. I think. Yeah. And I think it's a sweet story. I definitely want to read the next book. Historically also, sequels don't do as well as their predecessors, so that's going to be another thing that the makers will have to consider, is if it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a lot. Like, it's a big production for an animated movie like that, especially one that's very stylistic and has such a stellar cast and everything.
Yeah.
You would definitely want to bring back many of those characters, and, it's a hard dance, but they don't shy away from sequels. They make plenty of sequels that have no business being made, so I don't know. Maybe they avoid the ones that are better and don't. Who knows? But
yeah, they want to go for a cash cow, not something they have to put effort into.
Yeah.
But I think, this is totally worthy of a sequel, and these are all characters we want to see more of. Whether you're watching the movie or reading the book, you want more. Yeah. You love these characters; they're all great, and there are high stakes without stressing you out because it's like it's geared towards a younger audience. Super easy read for sure.
Yeah, my recommendation is 100% watch this movie. If you have children, I don't know where the appropriate line would be, maybe 10 and above, somewhere along those lines. Depending on your kid's emotional maturity, I would say. Please show them this movie and watch it with them, because there's a lot of good lessons to be learned here. There's a lot of really important things, and just it's artistically impressive and consistent. And it's one of those rare things where, as a parent, you don't have to dread having to put on this movie for your kid. If this is a movie that your kid loves, it's fun to be able to join them and watch it. It's not one of those things where it's like it has nothing of value for you as an adult. And so those are always like the children's movies that we need more of, things that can be good for the parent and the kid and everyone in between.
Yeah, and it makes it also easier for parents to screen something first, because it's a movie you want to see. It's a movie you want to have fun with, right? A movie you'll enjoy. You're not just watching it to be like, can my kid watch this? You're able to actually watch it and be like, this is fun, and then decide, is my kid ready for this?
Yes, absolutely.
Do I want to share this with my kid? Not just, can my kid watch it? Mm-hmm. And I would say the book is the same. I definitely know some kids can be a little bit sensitive to animal death and stuff like that, but the book handles it really beautifully. There's a beautiful scene with the spring thawing, and they talk about how some of the animals didn't make it, but they talk about, and they literally use the word dazzling. Dazzling flowers come up because of their sacrifice. And so it's a really nice way to address the circle of life and the realities of nature and the realities of life and death. So I think it's a good book to introduce kids to those concepts for sure.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, it sounds like the book is a little more matter of fact about some of that stuff. Not that the movie shies away from it necessarily. It's just I don't know. It's funny because when you're describing that, I would say that the movie sugarcoats it a little bit, not much, but a little bit. But then the movie by itself, I would say, does not sugarcoat things compared to other similar movies. So
I think it's just one of those cases where the book is given the space to delve into that. It's given the space, and you're not going to show a dead weasel decompose and then turn into flowers. That again, things you don't show, to children, things you can explain, but you're not going to show them the decomposition process.
Yeah.
So the book is able to explore these topics in a way that's safe and comfortable and beautiful, and the movie just doesn't have the time.
Right.
But it will still talk about it a little bit.
Yes. Both of them, neither one of them insult its audience's intelligence, especially emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Which is something I think is really, really crucial, especially for things meant for kids. So many movies and properties, they just they act like children can't handle things, but children are really smart most of the time, and they understand things that we think that they don't.
Yeah, they're curious.
And I think that, there is an age limit to that. You obviously don't want to traumatize your child at a very young age, but at the same time, it's okay to let them, challenge themselves a little bit with stuff like this. And I'm always ready to celebrate a movie that's willing to do that.
Yeah, and they're realities of life that your kid may unfortunately have to face at a young age too.
Right.
And it's better to have had those conversations. And I think this book and this movie will open those doors for you and either encourage your kid to talk about the life cycle, and you could even do stuff I could see like activities coming out of this, like going to a zoo and learning more about the animals and their habitats, starting a garden and talking about how, like, you know, things die and come back. Like, they're not just, you know, you don't even have to consider it an afterlife, but you can also just say they're not just gone. They've done something amazing.
Right. Yeah. Even if it's just a, you know, ecological contribution or something, it's part of the circle of life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just like kind of in closing, I wanted to share just a couple of quick quotes from a couple of reviews for the movie that came out that I think sum up things really well. And like this especially is kind of the way that I think about this. It's a simple tale told with great sophistication. And it really is. Like, there's something truly special about the way that, like, on paper, this seems like such a straightforward thing. But there is something really sophisticated about the way that it goes about it. Again, I think a lot of that comes down to respecting that audience intelligence.
Yeah, I was actually thinking something similar while we were sitting here talking about it, because at the beginning, I think I gave a one-sentence pitch as to what this was. And now by the end, I hope everyone sees what we see, is that it's this whole beautiful world that I can pitch to you in a sentence.
Right.
But it's so much more.
It's both of those things. It's both simple and complex.
Yeah.
And then just someone else said that it's a work that cares about two things: big feelings and great beauty.
Yes.
That's exactly what it is.
Yes, absolutely.
It really is a stunning piece of animation.
Yeah.
Like, great.
Yeah, the animation sounds great. The illustrations are wonderful. They are unique. The book and the movie are unique, and they are both so valuable. And like, it's one of those things that if you have a preferred format, you're going to get similar things out of both.
Yes.
But they are both easy to consume, accessible, something you should go pick up. And I know I said it was 80 chapters, but remember, it's like 2 pages a chapter. So you can get through it real fast.
Yeah.
I got through it real fast, and I was taking notes every chapter. So I definitely say pick it up.
Yeah, so we'll get to our ultimate question, but I would say, just generally speaking, this has the in contrast seal of approval, the stamp of approval for both.
Yes, but we do have to answer that question. What do you think?
I don't know. Sounds like both have their strengths, but
the only thing that I think I want to say where I think the book falls short is that it falls into those gender stereotypes a few times. And the book or the movie seems to lean into animal stereotypes, which is fine.
Yeah. It's actually somewhat informative in that way.
Yeah, you learn about how a possum mom has kids on her back, and like this goose will do this, and you know, maybe, you know, a beaver will be like this, and it's not because he's a papa beaver or daddy beaver, it's because he's a beaver who needs to chew this tree down because beavers chew things. They're really compelled by instincts to do weird things, like solve Poland's dirty river crisis. So I am just going to give this to the movie by a hair. Just because Peter Brown could have leaned more into, let's learn about animals and what animals are like. And instead it was, it literally says at one point, the mother geese are counting heads and the father geese are planning a route. And it's like, come on. It's 2016 when you're writing this. Like, you don't need to do that. We're past that. Let's have the geese. Some of the geese are counting and some of them are playing. You know what I mean? So I love how the book handles that, or the movie handles that, and I'm gonna give it to the movie because of that.
Yeah, I think in my head I was also giving a slight advantage to the movie, just because it feels like it accomplishes all the same things. Like, sometimes we talk about how, you know, a movie has to dumb certain things down or, you know, glaze over certain things, and it doesn't feel like this does it. Even though there's so many differences, it's still, every point that we came across had the same ultimate purpose to it. And so it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing a whole lot by just watching the movie, whereas sometimes, you know, the book provides a lot of extra juicy detail or, you know, extra lessons or blah, blah, blah. So this doesn't feel like a case. And like you said, it does feel like kind of just like a prefer your own medium, you know, situation. Where in that case, I just think being able to pack all of that into such a joyous, and emotionally impactful hour and 40 minutes is very impressive. So yeah, I think that's the way I lean as well.
Yeah. All right. Well, congrats to The Wild Robot 2024. Sorry to The Wild Robot by Peter Brown from 2016. But like I said, it's really neck and neck. And tomorrow we might honestly change our opinion.
Maybe. It's just a pleasure to be able to, have things like this and be able to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that about sums up our thoughts. But before we sign off, Alan, it's time for a game.
Let's have it.
All right. This is the tagline quiz. Let me just give that intro. Still no music. The tagline
where
is...
the points don't matter.
The points don't matter, and neither does the music. The tagline is, live, die, repeat.
Well, that's not even a tagline. That's the original title of Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
They did. I mean, it is something of a tagline now because they changed the title, but that is an unofficial title for that movie.
Okay, well, that was 2014's Edge of Tomorrow.
But let me give you some credit here because it may be totally unintentional, but this is another great example of a movie that seems kind of stupid, kind of like middle of the road, blockbuster, boring, whatever, that far exceeds expectations. That is a fantastic action movie. There's a lot to it. Another one I highly recommend.
All right. Dystopian sci-fi with Tom Cruise, Emily Blunt, and Bill Paxton. A man fighting in a war against aliens must relive the same day every time he dies until he can find a way to stop their power source with the help of an elite soldier. Mm-hmm. And I guess you're going to get 5 points for that one. So whoever is tracking points, please give Alan 5 points for that.
Man. Yeah, I had that one before you even finished.
Dang it. I was really hoping I'd have to explain, like, it's in all capital letters. There's a period after every word.
I got that one.
Dang it. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a really hard one next time.
All
then.
right, fine. Yeah,
right.
I've been on a roll here, so I think I deserve to get knocked down a peg.
All right, we're gonna humble you next month.
Great.
That's all for now. Thank you for listening to In Contrast. I'm Nisha.
And I'm Alan.
Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. It really helps us out. You can find us at In Contrast Pod on Instagram and Blue Sky. Next up, we'll rate, review, and talk about The Exorcist, going totally different.
It's time for Spooky Month.
Yes, by William Peter Blatty, and there's a 1973 movie. Also, apparently there's a TV series. It's like 2 episodes.
Never seen it.
So maybe we'll do that. Haven't decided yet.
I'm probably just going to get like all into, like, I haven't seen Exorcist 3, at least in full. I've seen clips from it. It's like a super underrated one. Has nothing to do with the book. I'm still probably about to like delve full into that.
All right. But yeah, Spooky Month is upon us next month.
Almost.
So we're going to do something spooky. We're going to do something completely different.
And the spooks will continue throughout the next month.
Will they?
To November as well.
Yes, we are going to have some more. We won't tell you what yet, though.
Not what it is. But
we're not going to tell you.
It's going to be an exciting time.
Maybe you can guess if you're keeping up with the news, though. So we will see you next time, where we will ask the important question, is the book really better than the movie?
Bye-bye.